to start by telling you a little story as it's told on the Human Rights Campaign website, which is hrc.org. This is Kimya, and Kimya has her master's degree in social work, and she has more than 2 decades of experience in the field. She works as a manager of a unit of a long-term care facility for people with diseases such as Alzheimer's or dementia. But unfortunately, for nearly a year, she had to put up with, or she suffered threatening messages from coworkers, vandalism to her car, and slurs uttered to her in the hallways at work. And in 2003, she was fired by her supervisor, and her supervisor stated this would not be happening to you if you were not a lesbian. So if this incident happened in California, Kimya would have been able to pursue legal action under the Fair Housing and Employment Act. She would have been able to hire a lawyer and sue the supervisors and collect compensation for lost wages, emotional distress, litigation costs, and attorney's fees. But unfortunately, this didn't happen to her in California. This happened to her in Michigan. And in Michigan, like 28 other states in this country, there is no law prohibiting you from being discriminated against for your sexual orientation in the workplace. So this is a controversial, homosexuality has long been a controversial topic in this country because of our rooting in Christianity, which other people talked about. But after reading many publications and personal stories from people and legal documents, it's very clear that the United States Congress should enact a federal law prohibiting discrimination in the workplace based on sexual orientation or gender identity. So first I'll talk about how banning workplace discrimination enjoys strong support in the country, and then I'll talk about how passing such a law is vital to supporting the 14th Amendment. Oh, yeah. Okay, so equality is majority favored, and so there's no reason it shouldn't be a federal law since senators and representatives are supposed to represent the American citizens and the opinions that they hold, and so since it's a majority, it's actually in May 2007, a poll conducted by Gallup found that 89% of Americans believe that gay men and lesbians should have equal rights in the workplace. So if that's like such a huge majority, it should already be a law. And also 88% of Fortune 500 companies included sexual orientation in their workplace non-discrimination policies. And so those are like the most successful and powerful businesses in the world, and they're wise enough to put no discrimination because of sexual orientation like in their policies. And also 21 states have 21 states, including District of Columbia, have laws against discrimination based on sexual identity. So it's clear that there's a huge majority in this country that favors equality in the workplace. So now that I've talked about how it's majority favored, I'll talk about the 14th Amendment. Okay, those are all the states. Okay, so the 14th Amendment states that all citizens have equal protection under the law, and this amendment is obviously being violated since there are people American citizens who are losing their jobs because of their sexual orientation, which has absolutely nothing to do with their work ethic or their job performance. And so in the past, this country has taken steps towards enforcing the 14th Amendment for everyone. They've made the Civil Rights Act, they've had the Age Discrimination Act, and then they've had the Americans with Disabilities Act. So we've taken steps to making equality for all citizens, but the LGBT community has been left out of that. So it's time to make an act for them. So I want to say that you should imagine a place where you're free to be who you are without fear of being judged or punished, and where you can apply for a job and you'll know you're being hired because of your qualifications and your experience and your education, and not denied because of your sexual orientation, gender, or the color of your skin. But I don't have to tell you to imagine that, because we already live in a place where we have all of that. Thankfully, we're from California, where we're all equal in the workplace. But in 29 other states in this country, people don't have those kinds of freedoms that we enjoy. Like, they can be fired, denied jobs, and denied promotions just because of their sexual orientation and gender identity. So it's time to change that, and it's time for everyone to be free in this country. So fortunately, there's a bill currently in Congress called the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which would prohibit employment discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. And so all we need to do is make sure that it gets passed. So we need to write to our senators and representatives and make sure that they, who represent us, know that we want equality and we want this bill passed. So now that I've discussed why this law would be favored by the majority of Americans and how it's the right of the LGBT community to be protected by such a law under the 14th Amendment, we can make sure Congress passes the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which would protect people like Kimia, so no one will ever unfairly lose their job again. You're welcome. You're welcome to ask me questions now.
Who can ask questions about that?
Can you make one up for double up?
I really need a question.
That'd be a critical question.
So how are they discriminated if they were in the first place able to get the job? Because I assume they wouldn't, like, all of a sudden been gay or lesbian.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have been in hiding because they know that there's a possibility of losing their job because of it. And then when they come out, or if someone finds out, there's so many stories. If you go on the Human Rights Campaign website, there's so many stories of people who they were outed, and then almost immediately, like within a month, they lost their job. And there's even some stories of that happened to people and they lost their job, and fortunately they were in states where they had laws protecting them, and so they were able to sue their employers. Like, there was a story of a police officer who lost his job in, I think it was like Minnesota or some country, some state with an M, and he sued them, and 2 years later he was a police officer again. So. Yes.
Would you believe it's just easier to just go by what people say, or it's better to actually try to fight it, your personal beliefs?
Wait, I'm sorry.
Do you think it's easier to just, it would have been easier for her to basically fake it the whole time, or for her to actually fight?
Yeah, it would have been easier, but that's not right. You should never have to hide who you are in fear of being punished and losing your job. So yeah, it would be easier, but it's not right.
Yeah.